Hello everybody, this is Fireball RKO 48, and you may have noticed that my intro is not as bombastic again as I usually am for a regular video, but you probably noticed by my thumbnail and the title, this is more of a serious video more than a, have fun playing Pokemon Fire Red, Subnautica Below Zero, Warframe, you fill in the blank, whatever game. This week that has come up and at the time of year, it's one of those, it's a happy time for me, but yet in contrast it's also a very sad one for me to recall some of the events. Now you may be asking me, RKO, why in the world are you making this video? Well, there's a story that goes along with this. When I first said I was going to start YouTube, I told myself that whenever I start making the YouTube videos in the future, I'm gonna make a video dedicated to something that happened in my life, and I want to spread to you kind of something that impacted my life, and that help you understand that that's something that's on my heart. So we're going to start off with, in the month of May, especially the beginning of May, I'm a mixed bag of emotions. Some of you don't know, my birthday is the 7th. However, before my birthday begins, there's been a lot of tragic events in my own lifetime. The first time happened was in May of 2010. I was an 8th grader at North Corbin Junior High, where, the classic junior high kid, you do stupid and silly stuff that, you really don't wish to recall. I still don't want to recall some of the idea and concepts. But while I was in North Corbin Junior High 8th grade year, I had a kid in my class that he would pick on me. However, he didn't bully me, he just picked on me to mess with me. If he had bullied me, he would have punched me and all that sort of stuff. He never did that. However, he was a friend. I mean, not close friend, but close enough. And his name was Chris Landry. Now, Chris Landry was, I don't want to say the most popular kid in school, but he was of the popular crowd. He was part of the band. He was very active in PE. He really enjoyed doing some of the activities we did, cutting up, all that sort of fun stuff that you would do when you were a typical junior high kid. But tragedy struck on May 2nd, on his way home, where he and his father or grandfather, I can't recall which one it was, were in a tragic car accident. Unfortunately, the father/grandfather was killed on the impact. And their name was Glenn Landry. Chris was, I don't want to say unconscious, but he was severely injured in the crash, and he was rushed to the hospital to try to heal his wounds. However, as you can probably guess, he didn't survive. On May 4th, he passed away and died from his injuries. Now you can imagine, 8th grade Sean, I I was mostly wrecked. You thought the kid would have a life ahead of him, but then it's taken up just like that. Just from one person's simple decision. And this is a rumor I've heard. Now again, can I confirm it? No. The only thing I can confirm about it is that the rumor is the driver who killed him was driving under the influence. He was a drunk. So, however, you can imagine the next day of class, May 5th, was the hardest day on not just me, my classmates, and my teachers and staff. It rocked our worlds. I remember going into class and actually just that morning going to our hall, people crying, upset, for obvious reasons. Again, I was the typical person trying to comfort them. Was it easy to comfort them? No. It was, again, you can imagine losing a close family member. Again, we're junior high kids. We have our whole life ahead of us, and their lives can be taken just like that. Thankfully, though, we had a big enough library where the teachers, the principal, asked a few ministers from around, including my own father, who was my youth minister, to come and counsel. And I thank a lot of people for it. I know countless people who went to the library to have some counseling done with them because, that day was still the hardest day. I can still recall being in my English class. Now, granted, me and Chris did not have an English class together, but there's a spot in there that we had it set to the side just to say, this is your seat. This was his seat. And we recall some of the memories. I mean, I'm gonna not say this person's name just out of respect, because I would have asked them ahead of time if they would wanted this. But a friend of mine was, when we would play dodgeball, he's like, I don't want to play dodgeball because Chris loved it, and he did it out of respect for him. Now again, I played, but I understand his point of view and respect his opinion. I wasn't gonna argue with him because he had a good point. He was good friends with Chris, and I'm not gonna argue. Again, now you may ask me, did Chris's family ask me to do this? No, they did not ask me to do this. I'm doing this because I want to do it, because this is something that I feel needs to be said. Again, my hearts and prayers continue to go out to Chris, Landry, and Landry's family, even though it's been 15 years since this tragedy happened. Again, your kids, your husband, your kids' lives just taken to you in the blink of an eye. Again, I can't imagine how that conversation happened when somebody came home to give them terribly sad news. Again, but now let's get on to the other one that you probably saw on the thumbnail. The story of Britny Vickers. I was at college at Williams Baptist College, currently now Williams Baptist University. It was in my sophomore year, 2016. Finals were in full swing. Studying for finals, doing all the hard stuff that you can imagine. Then, I just finished my shift at the cafeteria where we were cleaning up the building. Went back to my room, grabbed the trash, took the trash. Unfortunately, while I was taking the trash out to the dumpster, I hear Brittany's boyfriend crying, questioning, the typical phases of grief. He was shouting, "Why? Why?" At the top of his lungs. Of course, young naive RKO was like, something's going on. And I saw the wrestling team because he was actually part of the wrestling team. So when I'm coming back into the dorm room, I see them outside. I'm like, guys, what happened? And then they said Britney was killed in a car accident. Now, because I couldn't remember Britney, because I'd never had any classes with her, I, went to my room. We had gotten our yearbooks. I looked through my yearbook and it's like, okay. And then I found her picture. I'm like, no. No. It rocked my world. Brittany was a sophomore. She was in this class. She was a sophomore like me. But she had her whole life up ahead of her when this car crash happened. What makes it even worse is this part I'm about to tell you. Obviously, I said it was the week of finals. She was going to pick up her father from the airport because she was from Florida, so she could bring stuff home. I can imagine. I can't remember. I think it was one of the professors from the school had to go pick him up. Again, I could be wrong. I don't remember. But I could just imagine the professor or the president of Williams Baptist College having to tell this news and even go pick him up. I couldn't imagine that. I told myself I wouldn't cry, but I may actually cry through this. We were just talking about this. But yeah, it's a hard thing to recall. Going to pick her up again. And probably through this, I may put some pictures I was able to find of some of the pictures from the news story I was able to find out. But she had her whole life ahead of her. I want to say she was going for a counseling or a business degree. I don't remember at the top of my head what Brittany was going for. But it affected us. And if you want to know how much it affected my college, I want you to picture this. My graduating class, when I graduated in 2018, was in the double digits. Yes. The seminary or college I went to was small. So, losing one person was like losing a family member. We were all brothers and sisters. That's how close we were. I can't really describe it any other way than we were all affected in some way. Now, after all this took place, we all met in the chapel. And basically, my good friend and good professor, Dr. Ken Gore, again, I love him to death, even to this day. He gave a very positive message, talking about, we're all family together. He said, take the time you need. He led us in a big prayer, and said, take whatever time you need. Yes, we're in a seminary, and it's hard to lose a close friend and a schoolmate. Of course, I can imagine being part of the soccer team because she was part of the female soccer team, or women's soccer team, excuse me. And they'd expected the whole soccer team. I mean, even the guys. I mean, long story short, my sophomore roommate was a part of the men's soccer team, and he was rocked by it. And he really didn't know her that much. But again, it goes to show how much our campus cared for each other. I did the same thing I did with Chris, with my college friends. Offered comfort as comfort can see, and gave it as much as I could. However, we still continue the day after that. Then the next 2 years, when my junior year and my senior year, I believe the time of her birthday, and I think it was in September or October. I don't actually recall, so forgive me for not remembering this all too well. Is that we would basically go out to the soccer field and show pictures that have a little PowerPoint or a little video of remembering Britny and what all that she had. And of course, you can probably tell from the pictures that I've shown of her, that bright smile. That just changes you like that. She was a positive influence to be around. From one stories I've heard, from not just from the wrestling team but other stuff, that she would try anything. Like, they were, I can't remember who it was. I think it was her boyfriend at the time, may have, but basically she was learning to wrestle with some of them and do it with some friends. She was one of those people. She was that go-getter. You honestly tell her, she wouldn't be able to tell her no. And she was that funny, go-lucky person. And after that, we also got shirts that I don't think I've worn it for a reaction, which, again, it basically says William Soccer, her the 13 in the V, because her number was number 13. But I still have this shirt, and it helps me recall the life and memory that she has, or she had. Again, did her family ask me to do this? No. Again, my hearts and prayers and condolences go to their family, even though that was in 2016. Again, I want to harp on this, that I was not encouraged by her family to recall these events. This is just something that impacted my life. And I want to share it with you guys, the fact that both of these were most likely caused by someone who was drinking and driving. The moral of both these stories is, if you are drinking, please do not get behind the wheel. It's dangerous. You're not in the right mindset. And you could cause a lot more harm than you think. There's a reason it's a law not to drink and drive. And there's been numerous, and this is just 2 that have impacted my life. Just please, with all due respect, do not drink and drive. Drinking and driving has taken 2 close people in my lifetime. And I want you to know that if you need somebody to talk to about this, feel free to message me, make a comment in this video. Again, I've not cried, which I'm honestly genuinely surprised that I've not cried during recording this. But I want you to know that I'm here if you need somebody to talk to. But again, I hope you have been listening and understand kind of why this beginning of May is really difficult for me. Even though it should be genuinely exciting for me because it's my birthday. But it's not. It's rough. Again, I will ask that you listen to some of the advice I give. Again, as we wrap up again, I thank y'all for listening. Again, this has been probably one of the hardest videos I've ever had to record myself doing. But again, thank y'all for listening. And again, this is Fireball RKO 48 saying, rest in peace, Chris. Rest in peace, Britny. I'll see you next time.